It is December the 4th at 11:30 a.m. and I am sitting here about to submit my formal resignation from my career as a tenure track English professor. I'm filled with a lot of emotions. I am filled with hope. I am filled with grief. I am filled with sadness. All of these things have been, circling in my life, in my mind, since the beginning of 2023. And so here we are at the end of 2023. And it's time for me to do the last step that will close the door on who I've been. Leaving anything is never easy, especially when you're leaving something because God asked you to do it and not because it wasn't working for you. Or I once heard Jackie Hill Perry say, giving up what you love for a God who deserves it is devastating. Hey y'all, and welcome back to season 2 of the Book of Brianna, a podcast. I am your host, Dr. Brianna Whiteside, and I'm so excited to welcome you into the podcast today. Y'all, listen, we are at the end of January. And I want you to pause before we go into February. I want you to pause and look back over your month and ask yourself, did I do or did I accomplish what I said I was going to accomplish in December? Because it's so easy to say 2024 is going to be my year. But what we don't realize is that in order for a year to be your year, in order for you to make progress, you need to make progress every day, which means you need to make progress every month. And so if you make 1% of progress every day, by the end of the year, you would be 365% better. So that's the only way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So if you did not do what you said that you were gonna do in December, if you didn't do that in January, I want you to course correct now before we get into February, because it's the daily decisions that get you to the end goal, not a big jump, not a big step. It's small steps get you there too, and they will sustain you when you finally get to where you want to be this year. So I wanted to just go ahead and drop that tidbit of wisdom on you, because that's how I live my life and it has worked for me. I don't take really huge steps unless it's resigning from my career, but nevertheless there is still micro steps within the perceived big step that you may not be aware of and may not be privy to, and I want to go ahead and acknowledge that because I want you to be better by the end of the year. In today's video, we're wrapping up this story time about me resigning my career, and I want to tell y'all where I am with everything now. Now you saw the beginning, you saw me crying, you saw me saying I'm not happy about it, and I'm still not. In the vein of transparency, you saw me tearing up last year. You've heard the story. You've heard how God kind of tricked me into resigning, and the season that he tricked me into resigning in. You heard the story about my community and how different people had different responses. But now I want to tell you where I am now, because I am not where I was when I first started this journey at the beginning of 2023, midway through 2023, even through the decision, and even, where I was last season on the podcast. I'm not in that place anymore. And I think it all has to do with the decision to journey. It is December the 4th at 11:30 a.m. and I am sitting here about to submit my formal resignation from my career as a tenure track English professor. I'm filled with a lot of emotions. I am filled with hope. I am filled with grief. I am filled with sadness. All of these things have been, circling in my life, in my mind, since the beginning of 2023. And so here we are at the end of 2023, and it's time for me to do the last step that will close the door on who I've been. Leaving is anything is never easy, especially when you're leaving something because God asked you to do it and not because it wasn't working for you, or because, are my glasses dirty? I can't even tell. Not because it's not working for you, or not because you don't want to do it anymore, but because God asked you to do him a favor. I once heard Jackie Hill Perry say, and it was a quote. She said, "Giving up what you love for a God who deserves it is devastating." That phrase could not be more truthful for me. It is devastating, but it is something that I know I have to do. I don't know what the future holds for me. This is who I've been. This is what I've set my life up to do since I knew I wanted to be a teacher in the 2nd grade. And now we're coming to an end. This is the end of a 10-year cycle, because I started teaching college at 24. I'm 34. We're coming to the end of a cycle. It wasn't a bad cycle, but one that I'm grateful to have experienced. So now as I step into the next 10 years, I do so knowing that the first 10 years of my life, of my career, have been wonderful. They've done exactly what I knew that they would do. And for that, I call that success. I am grateful. I'm afraid, but I am certain nonetheless. So yeah, I'm about to submit. I'm about to flip the camera so you can see me actually submit the resignation. You see here? White side resignation. Send. There's no turning back. There is no turning back now. So I am in the middle of teaching the Let There Be Challenge this year. 700 folks have signed up, and I am teaching tonight, and so I have to go prepare for that, finish preparing for that. I'm gonna look back on this video one day, and I'm gonna be so grateful that I made that decision. Right now I don't feel grateful. Right now I feel hurt, and I feel afraid. Certain, but afraid. So yeah, that was the last step, and I have obeyed. Wish me luck. Not even luck. Luck ain't gonna do this. Prayers. Send prayers. Send prayers. Because following God is not easy. Obeying God, it's not easy. Peace out, y'all. Now, I know we like to romanticize the finished product, and I do too, right? I want to get to the end. I want to get to the end. I want to see how it turns out for me. However, you'll never know. Even in our wildest dreams aren't wild enough when we're journeying with God. That's something he's been teaching me, and it's a really hard lesson to learn. But I'm not able to calculate the end result, because the end result is not something that I necessarily even imagined or wanted or desired. This is his plan for me. This is his purpose. And this is also something that he's asking me to do. And so he's literally making me walk out the journey without much clarity on what it's going to look like. I have no idea where I'm going into. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who I'll become by the end of this year, even 6 months from now. I don't know. But there is a resolve that I've noticed within myself, that kind of like Esther, if I perish, I perish, right? There is a resolve. Like at this point, I've literally played my last card, and I have no more cards left. So now, God, you're going to have to God be God. And people say, you're going to have to God for me, because I don't know. Y'all know that little Kevin Hart skit? Where you going? I don't know. Who gonna be there? I don't know. What y'all gonna do? I don't know. Y'all gonna eat? I don't know. I don't know any of it. And I think that is the nerve-wracking part. But what I really understand and what I really believe is that God is actually inviting me into the process of co-creating the future. And it's scary yet exciting. And this is what I mean by co-creating. I am good for the most part at obeying, right? You tell me this is what I need you to do, I'm gonna do it to the best of my abilities. I'm not the best, and this is what I'm learning, I'm not the best at co-creating. And what I mean is that I'm learning that there's a place that you can get to in God where he trusts you, and he's like, hey, this is the big picture, but the details can come from you. We can co-create this thing. We want this thing to look like you. We want it to sound like you, Bree. You know, we trust you because you've proven yourself time and time again. So we're inviting you in to a seat at the table where there's this blank canvas. And that is terrifying for me, because I think maybe I've moved from servant to friend now. Maybe, I hope I have. But it's humbling to know that I've kind of been elevated and upgraded. I'm not saying I've been perfect, y'all. Absolutely not. Last year, Q3 and 4, I was threatening to go back to the street. I'm not gonna lie, the pressure that I was under for the last 6 months of the year was threatening to take me out. Mentally, I was struggling. Emotionally, I was struggling. I mean, I wasn't even working out as regularly as I normally do, right? I wasn't working out as much, and so I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of muscle. I was getting out of shape. It was such a hard season, and it was a season that God had put me in. This wasn't the devil. This wasn't me. This was a God season, and I was, struggling. It was hard because I thought that in my mind, I imagined the process to be a little bit more glamorous. I imagined the process to be a little bit more easier, the process of finally stepping into a promise. I thought it would be a little bit more easier. But then I'm reminded of when the children of Israel is about to go into the promised land, and God tells their leader, I think it's Joshua or Jeremiah, I think it's Joshua, tells Joshua, hey, y'all need to be strong and courageous here. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if you're about to take me to a promised land, why I need to be strong and courageous? Because I should be excited. But no, just because you're about to step into a promised land don't mean the giants that once occupied that land aren't still there. That doesn't mean that you're not going to feel the warfare of actually crossing over and stepping into. I didn't calculate that. When God said that I was elevated and God said all of these things and all these promises, I didn't calculate the process. And I couldn't have calculated the process, though I knew a process was attached, because I'd never been that way before. I didn't know what was going to be required, but also what was going to resist me. I was being resisted so hard last year. And for someone who is used to breaking boundaries in the family and being a generational curse breaker, all these things, on the next level, when you're trying to break through that next level, all hell is going to come against you. Because if you open that glass ceiling, everybody after you is getting through. And I was getting my head knocked off. I ain't gonna lie. My head knocked off, my edges snatched. I was crying, spitting, and farting. It was hard. It was very, very hard. Very, very difficult for me. To the point where I was kind of like, is it worth it? Is the warfare worth it? Is the struggle worth it? Is the future worth it? Do I even want my destiny, right? And I had to kind of deal with that and sit with that, because now I'm questioning, am I worth it? Is it worth the process? Is it worth moving forward? I've paid so much. And I was just in a dangerous place last year. As y'all may have started to sense, I was in a dangerous place, and it was the danger of emerging. It was the danger of becoming. It was you know how what's coming before me is the image of the caterpillar turned into a butterfly, and how as the butterfly is trying to poke its way out of the cocoon, it doesn't need you to help it, because if you help it, you will hinder it, right? If you make the process of coming out of the cocoon easier, you would stunt the growth and the strength of the butterfly. That was me last year. God wasn't helping me get out of that place for 6 months. 6 months I felt the pressure. 6 months I felt the burden. 6 months I was sad, grieving, crying. I mean, tired, exhausted, and I still feel the effects of it. They haven't fully gone away, but I was feeling it, and I couldn't understand, like, God, why won't you take the pressure off? Why won't you lift the weight a little bit? Why don't you help me? And it was because he didn't want to cripple me when I finally stepped all the way into the next. Too much help can hinder. Too much help can cripple. Too much help, you will kind of stunt the growth of the person, right? And I hated it. I hated it last season, and I'm just like, why you keep doing this to me? Why you keep, year after year, I'm in a process, I'm getting beat down, I'm crying, and you keep telling me to keep going, and you're proud of me and all these things, but you keep just slapping me down, it felt like, you know what I mean? Or allowing my enemies to slap me down and to terrorize me. And it's me on the other side of the decision. Now, I'm still in the test. As I'm recording this, I'm still in the test. But my perspective is different. I'm decided. I am decided. And from that decidedness, when I finally have started to get out of the disappointment, the pain, the grief, the resentment of it, I started to feel excited or curious. I can say curious. I think that would be a better word. Curious about the future. Now, December, I ain't curious about nothing. Don't talk to me, don't call me, don't text me, don't say the wrong thing, don't even say future. But now I'm on the other side of it. I am curious. Why would you bring me out of this? What else could there be for me, right? I'm curious as to because y'all know the scripture that says your latter days will be greater than your former days. What could be greater than what I'm already doing, right? As a tenure track English professor in their career, stepping into my career so early like I did, what could be greater than this? And so I'm kind of curious nowadays. Like, it's not easier because I'm still learning about some of the gifts that are emerging within my life now. Granted, I was born a teacher, but I was also born an apostolic teacher, which is why I'm able to do so many things, right? I'm able to build in so many ways because apostles generally build, and it doesn't maybe look like in the same. We had 12. We had different apostles who exhibited different strengths and things of that nature, and it looked different. But I think this season now that I am accepting the gifts that are emerging, and not just the talents, but the gifts that are emerging and becoming dominant. I am curious. I'm curious. Still a scary place because this is not my normal. This is not what I'm used to doing. Like, yeah, I've been around it. I grew up around it, and I knew that I had certain gifts, but exercising those gifts, that I fall back on my intellect. I fall back on study. I fall back on teaching. But now God's like, hey, no, I never said your talents will make room for you, Brianna. That's for somebody. I said your gifts would, because God gave us gifts and talent. So I never said that your talents was going to make room for you. It's your gifts. Your gifts would make room for you and bring you before great men. And as this season, I've been trying to hone those gifts and discover them and, become more comfortable with them. Certain things started to now unlock even the more. And so I think I was kind of limited in a way because I wasn't open to the unlocking of the gifts, because I don't want to be that person. I don't want the stigma that comes along with certain gifts. I'll say that. And now I'm like, well, I don't got no choice but to embrace it and see where it goes, because the expression will never be the same. It may be similar, never be the same. However, you finna have to step into it, because your time is running out on your career. You have X amount of days left, in the semester. you gonna go ahead and have to embrace it. It ain't no time for you to be resisting it or resisting God, because he's made it clear, this is the path, this is the journey, you need to go ahead and walk it, sis. And so I am curious. I'm curious as to what the next 6 months of my life will look like. I'm curious as to who I will become, but I'm also curious as to what God can do, right? Because now this decision has totally put a demand on heaven. The decision I made to stop following my own logic and to lean into the Holy Spirit and allow him to take care of me, seek the kingdom first, and all this righteousness and all of these things will be added unto you. This move, which was divinely orchestrated. I don't want you to be out here leaving your career or your job because you're just tired of it. No, you got to make sure this is divinely orchestrated. But this divinely orchestrated move has literally just, I feel like, forced the hand of God and forced the provision of heaven to come forth in the earth. And even though I'm still in this in-between place where I'm still nervous, where I'm still like, okay, God, please, come on. I mean, anytime you want to show up, because I already proven that I'm going to obey you. Anytime you want to show up, I'm your girl. Even though I'm still in that place emotionally, I know that there is no way that he's going to let me be out here. And there's a lot, I'll say it this way. There's a lot riding on God showing up for me. Not just for me, but for y'all. Y'all are watching now. My family is watching. So there's a lot. And I don't think God has a problem. I don't think he has a problem showing his hand, because he's done it over and over again, right? He tells us his resume in the Bible saying, try me. You don't know who he's talking to. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna try you. Here I am, stepping out on faith. Here I am trying to learn about the gifts that you put in me, and also learn to embrace this new identity that is coming forth, that is emerging. All of these things that I'm becoming, because you're positioning me in a way to become. I'm gonna trust you. And I am going to actually trust myself as well, because this is a level of trust in myself. I have to trust in myself to know that I am worthy to be a partaker in this process. This is a larger conversation about self-esteem here. Because when you get comfortable, it's kind of like, okay, now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm thinking about when God changed Jacob's name to Israel. Jacob is who he's always been. There's a certain identity attached to that, a certain comfort, a certain understanding, a certain knowing. But when he changes his name to Israel, Jacob has never, even though both are inside him, he's never expressed himself as Israel. He's never become as Israel. He's never navigated the world as Israel. So I'm pretty sure there was this infancy, this crucial and critical infancy stage where Jacob had to learn to become Israel, to operate as Israel, to think as Israel, to move in the world as Israel, all of these things. And so now I feel like, now that God has shifted my career and shifted my identity from Dr. Brianna Whiteside, the academic, to becoming Dr. Brianna Whiteside, insert whatever I'm becoming, there is this critical season where I'm having to learn to become and walk in this new identity. And there's a lot of responsibility when you get something new. I know we love to say, like, I'm ready for something new. I'm really, yeah, elevation. And yes, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But not knowing that elevation is uncomfortable. Elevation requires pressure to be put on you. Elevation requires you to unbecome so that you can become. Elevation is a bloody thing. It is not beautiful. It is not glamorous like we like to glamorize it and romanticize it. It's not. It's ugly. It's hard work, which is why many people don't elevate. Many people don't do the work required to step into the next, to become better, to continue moving forward, because it's hard work. Yes, it's also hard work to stay the same, but it feels like the work to emerge or to elevate or to go higher is harder. And in some respects it is. But it just requires a different level of strength. It requires a different level of surrender. It also requires just a different level of decidedness, saying, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this thing. And there's only a certain amount of time that my enemies are going to be able to kind of resist me without realizing that they're actually resisting God. And when God steps in, there's nothing anyone can do to prevent that. So that's where I am. I am in this place where I am still learning God as Father, but I'm also learning myself in this new identity that is starting to unfold and develop. And it's a beautiful, ugly process, and it's super uncomfortable, but I am committed to it because now I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like we got a time. We got a time that's starting to wind down, and so I got a few months to get this thing ready and for God to work in a way that he needs to work in me before it's time for me to fully step into, or before I'm fully ready to step into the expression and the manifestation of who he created me to be as it relates to my gifts and not my talent. And so I am curious. I'm still shook. I'm still nervous. A part of me still feels unqualified to do whatever it is that he's calling me to do. I really don't even know what it fully is, but I am here and I am committed because I don't want to die with regret. I don't want to die with regret. I don't want to be the person who's like, I wish I would have followed God because maybe I wouldn't have experienced this, or I wish I would have had the courage to do this because my life ended up like that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be the person that says, I followed God. My life looks nothing like I thought it was going to look and that I wanted it to look. But I followed God into something better, even though I was afraid. Like, I want that testimony. I want that confession. I want that last will and testament, really. And I know that it's not without struggle and it's not without burden, but it is with God. So it is with safety. And that is so important to me. And so that's where I am now, y'all. Thank you for journeying with me and allowing me to be honest about my process with you, even as I teach in a different format, even as I become and y'all watch me. Thank you for being willing to witness what God is doing, but also thank you for being committed to doing your part in your own journey. I'm not the only one undergoing this transformation. If you are surrendered and submitted, you too are undergoing this transformation. And I want you to embrace it because you don't know if you're going to get this opportunity to do this again. I know we like to think that God would continue giving us chance after chance to do what he has called us to do months ago. It's not true. Your replacement is always ready. And I really believe that we need to start moving as if we know our replacements are ready. So I hope this has encouraged you. I hope this has allowed you to get some perspective. Even this whole series, this mini series in the month of January, I hope it's giving you perspective on the different ways it looks to follow God. It's not always a beautiful walk. It's not always easy. That's why Jesus tells us you're going to have to take up your cross and follow me. A cross is a deadly thing, okay? You're going to have to die to yourself, and your life is not your own. And I'm realizing that my life is not my own in real time. In real time. But this is what we're here for. We serve at the honor of the King, at the pleasure of the King, and I'm just here doing my part. And I pray and I hope that you will continue to do your part too, because we need you. No one plays an insignificant role. So if this has encouraged you, be sure to like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not, and share this with a friend who needs encouragement, y'all. 2024 is going to be a very fascinating year for many people. I almost said something else, but it's going to be a very fascinating year, and we need each other. We need to equip one another, and we need to hold up each other. And so I hope that you would do your part as I do my part. And I'll see y'all soon. February is a few days away, and I can't wait to jump into a new episode with you. Talk to you soon. Bye.